talking to the elders, and we decided to continue after Genesis with Exodus. So that's our plan. And so we're in Genesis 46 now, moving right along. And this is going to show, I think, more clearer, putting into perspective the main thread and theme throughout the Bible. And what is that? Redemption. Redemption, because you're going to step back sometimes. You have to ask yourself these questions. Why? Why when God promised the promised land of Canaan to Abraham and his descendants, is he now moving them to Egypt? And then we know what's going to happen there for over 400 years. And then there's going to be the Exodus, and they're going to go 40 years of those journeys. And then we have to ask, why? What's the purpose? And we'll see more of that. But God knows what he's doing. And we see here through all of this God's providence work. So we left off in Genesis 45 when Joseph revealed himself to his brothers, and then they went back home to get their father, and in chapter 45, and Joseph said to his brothers before they left Egypt to go back to get his father, and remember, Pharaoh gave them carts to take their children and take food and all that. And what did Joseph tell his brothers? What did he admonish them or warn them about on their way back not to do? Don't fight. Don't quarrel. And because you can imagine all the things that might be going through their head and blaming one another, and then how we're going to tell our father and this and that. And so anyway, he told them that he's caring for his brother. He's caring for unity, we see here, He's looking at the big picture. So we're in chapter 46 now. And chapter 46 is not just a travel chapter of Jacob bringing all his family to Egypt. It's not just that. It's a covenant transition chapter. You're going to see this covenant that God makes as he moves his family of the promise from Canaan to Egypt, still without breaking his promises. So the big idea is God may relocate people, but he never relocates his covenant. So he may relocate us, but again, we have to always look at, what's our purpose? What is God trying to do? And what makes big life transition spiritually dangerous? So this is, here is Jacob now in his old age in Canaan. This is where he's supposed to be, as God has promised in the promised land, how he's going to multiply, become a great nation. And now he's being uprooted, and all his family to come to Egypt because of the famine. And you can imagine, he's old, and yet, what's one motivating force for him to go back to, there's two. What's that? To see Joseph. Yeah, the son he thought was dead for 22 years at least. And then, what would be the other motivation? Yeah, to eat. So he doesn't starve to death. And so there's a big move, and so we're going to see this move here. We're going to see the numbering of his family, and we're going to see that. So, what makes big life transitions spiritually dangerous, would you say, or scary?
We start wondering where God is.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in different situations, we're like, okay, how is God in this situation? He wasn't there for me, so I'm not. So basically, I'm giving up. That's kind of how we do this.
Yeah. And they feel he's not there for me, and how am I going to do this, and fear, and yeah.
But I'm not saying that he's not there because he's always there.
Oh, yes, right. But
Sometimes they feel that
oh, yeah, it feels like, where are you? Throughout our life, we're going to go through moments like that where we're not going to feel God. We're going to say, where are you, God? We're going to wonder, not realizing, he is there, but we don't always, feel that. And Brother Pedro. I can't hear too, what do you,
That changes too much.
changes too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so no one likes big changes. So it can be, pretty fearful, the fear of uncertainty, not knowing, this is, that's a big scary thing, not knowing, a loss of control, leaving familiar routines, coming all the way from Germany to America, big transitions, cultural transitions, and temptations to interpret change as God abandoning me, like, where is God? Why is he abandoning me? We may be tempted to think that. And so we look at this, and many believers confuse a new place with a new God, but Genesis 46 corrects this. It's the same God, and his promises will come true. So let's look at here, beginning in chapter 46. We see, so Israel, and who is that? Who is Israel? Jacob. And his name's going to be used interchangeably here. Israel, Jacob, Israel, Jacob. So Israel set out with all that was his. And when he reached Beersheba, now he's in Hebron in Israel, and he comes down now, they're going south to Egypt. And he's going to go to Beersheba, and that's a place where Abraham had called on the Lord there. And Isaac received God's promise there. And Jacob does the right thing. He worships first and then moves. So he's he's making this big move. And he didn't have any direct, right before this moment, didn't have any direct command from God like he did at these other locations. Before he left Canaan to go up to Paran, and before he left there with Laban, he got another message from God to leave. Then it was in Shechem, then he got another message to leave to Bethel. He didn't get a message yet here to leave, but he's doing it in faith, and he's going. And so how does that affect our decisions? When we have to make major, big decisions, and we don't really know what God may want, what might be some of the criteria to where we can move forward versus some reasons why we shouldn't move forward? What would be some clear general reasons to be okay with moving forward or not?
I was first of all praying,
Prayer.
talking to God,
Mm-hmm.
and waiting for him to open up doors.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to have faith.
Right.
We have to have faith to walk through the door
Yeah, yeah.
when he opens.
Right. And so, and then if you want to make that change, and you test your motives, and it's not for sinful purposes, it's not a sinful thing. So he had these situations, so he was ready to move forward, and he's going down to Beersheba, but you see what he does there. He offered sacrifices to God of his father Isaac. So he stops and he worships. He puts God first, like the prayer. And after he's on his move, and then God comes to him, and in verse 2, and God spoke to Israel in a vision at night and said, Jacob, Jacob. So here is Jacob, Israel, and he's moving along, and he still wants to know God's will. So, he has grown, he is mature, he's older man. And this is how we should be, always wanting to know, what is God's will? Where are you leading me? And seek him first. And he worships, and he stops and he worships in the middle of all this. And then God speaks to him. So he reached out, he's open, and now we see God calling him in a vision at night. And he replies, here I am. So Jacob's ready. He's aware. He's anticipating an answer from God. He's just not shutting off God and not hearing God. And then God says, I am God, the God of your father, he said. Do not be... Now look at the multiple things. Again, understanding that this is a scary experience, a new experience. He's an old man. He's uprooting his whole life. He's going there not knowing what's going to happen. And you're going to see 5 things that God does. And And what is this? How does this help Jacob? Now look at the things that God says. I am God, the God of your father. He said, do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you a great nation there. Now, that's interesting. I thought the promised land. So we'll see, but there's a whole purpose of it. I will go down to Egypt with you, and I will surely bring you back again, and Joseph's own hand will close your eyes. What are some of the reassuring promises that God gives Jacob here? He'll go with him. Yeah, I mean, if God, as Paul says in Romans, if God is with us, who could be against us? Remember that. Yes?
The other thing is that where God's telling him, don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid.
There's probably been some prayers giving God on his fear of what's coming next.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to Egypt of all places.
Mm-hmm.
So God's heard his concerns.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's reminded, look, I hear you.
Yeah. Don't be afraid. That's another powerful one. Yeah, and we see that God's saying that many times to Joshua. He's going to say, don't be afraid, be of courage. So don't be afraid. I will be with you. What else?
Reassures him that he will bring him back.
He'll bring him back. Gives him a problem. I'm going to bring you back. I'm staying to my promise. I'm not changing my promise. But there's going to be a little intermission here for a purpose. What else does he?
He assures him he is the God.
That he's the God.
Just like he says, he offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's referenced throughout even the New Testament.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm not just a different God in a different location. I am still the God. And
Yeah.
the God that your father worshipped and his father worshipped.
The God, yeah. And he says, I am God, the God of your father, yes. And so reassures, and that's where it all has to start. We have to realize who God is and our relationship with God, and realize that he is all in control and powerful, and he can help. And what else?
Joseph, he will be reunited with Joseph
Mhm.
before he dies, because Joseph will close his eyes.
Yes, he'll be reunited with Joseph, and Joseph will close his eyes. He'll die there in Egypt with Joseph. So, it's kind of interesting because he says he's going to bring him back, but yet he says he's going to die there. But he does bring him back, just dead. So God keeps to his promise. Yes.
And everything here is things that God is going to do.
Yes, I, God.
It's not him. It's not on his own
Mm-hmm.
power. It's not on his own terms. It's
That's
not-
right.
He's not saying, I'm going to bless you to do it. He says, I'm going to do it.
God's going to do, yes. So he can just relax, go for the ride. And what else did he promise him? Going to make a great nation. Where? In Egypt, of all places. Now, it's like, so we have to think about this. We're going to be thinking about this. We're going to be seeing more of this, and this is all going to fit into the plan of redemption. Why is he going to bring them there in Egypt to build a nation? They're already in Canaan. Why don't you do it there? So we'll see a little more insight into that. So yeah, those are the things he promises and gives Jacob. You can imagine why Jacob would have been afraid. Egypt in Genesis had been spiritually risky before. Abraham went down there and stumbled. Egypt represented refuge by sight instead of refuge by faith. And so God doesn't just give a command, he reassures. So what does God give Jacob that he often gives us in transitions? Out of all this, what has God given Jacob that he often gives us in these transitions? Reassurance. Gave him reassurance. He gave him a reassurance that he's going to go with him. What? So he gave him permission to go. He gave him that reassurance, that presence, I will go with you. And he gave him the promise, I will make you a great nation. I will bring you back. He gave him permission, his presence, and his promise. And isn't that what God gives us in these transitions? And so when you can't see the full map, obey the next step with worship and trust. So a lot of times, you don't know the next step, but move forward with faith and trust. And so he continues in verse 5. Then Jacob left Beersheba, and Israel's sons took their father Jacob and their children and their wives in the carts that Pharaoh had sent to transport him. So Pharaoh sent all these carts before, in the other chapter. So Jacob and all his offspring went to Egypt, taking with them their livestock and the possessions that they had acquired in Canaan. Jacob brought with him to Egypt his sons and his grandsons and his daughters and his granddaughters and all his offspring. And now they're going to list all of them. And just to go ahead with about this list here, if you, we're not going to go into all the math and the calculations, but it adds them all up, and it's going to be 70. But there's going to be different accounts in different places, and we'll talk a little bit about that because we'll get to that. But let's look here, this timeline. So let's look at this timeline a little bit again. Remind ourselves, Joseph, when he was sold into slavery, was how much? How old? 17. And then when he stands before Pharaoh, goes to Pharaoh's place, he's how old? It says how old he was when he started in Pharaoh's place. 30. He was, says 30 in Genesis 41:46. And then there's going to be 7 years of plenty. We see that. And the famine began by Genesis 45. And then Joseph says in 45:6 that 2 years of the famine have passed and there's 5 more years left. So 7 years since he interpreted the dream of Pharaoh, plus 2 makes 9, so he's 39 now. And Jacob's age in chapter 47, when he meets before Pharaoh, he says he's 130. So Jacob is 130 here. He's not a young guy. And so we see this little time table here. And 130 years old, waiting for this promise and getting to see Jacob, what does that tell us about God's waiting seasons in our life?
Our time is not his time.
Our time is not his time, right? His time is not our time. Yeah. And so what do we do in these waiting seasons? Be still and know that he is God. Where'd that come from? Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I am God. And that's what you want to do. And so God can be working for decades while it looks like nothing is happening, right? And Jacob waited years thinking Joseph was dead, yet God was positioning salvation for the family. So long delays are not divine neglect, and they're often divine preparation. So we're going to see in these events, stepping back, what God is doing for these people, because ultimately, through these people, what was supposed to happen? Ultimately, Jesus, right? If you don't know the answer, just say Jesus. Right, Jesus. And they're preparing the people for the Messiah to come through. And we're gonna and all these things going on. Just look at that and step back and realize this is God preparing these people. Look what they have to go through. All this preparation to be ready. And we'll look at a little more of that. So now we see these lists. You know, why does God record a genealogy here? He doesn't waste any ink. God doesn't waste ink or words in his writings. And so he's going to list 70 people or so in this list here. And so we see that these are the names of the sons of Israel, Jacob, and his descendants who went to Egypt. And he's going to go through the 12 sons with the different wives and the servants and their children, beginning with the firstborn, with Leah's children. Reuben, the firstborn of Jacob. The sons of Reuben were Hanok and Palu and Hezron and Carmi. The sons of Simeon, Jemuel, Jamin, Ohad, Jachin, Zohar, and Shaul, the son of a Canaanite woman. So it points out that one of his wives was a Canaanite woman. The sons of Levi, Gershon, Kohath, Merari. The sons of Judah, Onan, Shelah, Perez, Zerah. But and Onan had died in the land of Canaan. So obviously those two are not going to be in a number. But the sons of Perez, Hezron, and Hamul. The sons of Issachar, Tola, Puah, Jeshab, and Shimron. The sons of Zebulun, Sered, Elon, Jaleel. These were the sons of Leah, born to Jacob in Padam Aram. So those are the sons from Leah, besides his daughter Dinah. These sons and daughters of his were 33 in all. Okay, so you got 33 from all of the sons through Leah. Then you got the sons of Gad, Zephon, Hagi, Shunai, Esbon, Eri, Aradai, Areli. The sons of Asher, Imnah, Ishva, Ishvi, and Bariah. Their sister was Sarah. The sons of Bariah, Heber, and Malkiel. These were the children born to Jacob by Zilpah, whom Laban had given to his daughter Leah, 16 in all. So that was through Leah's servant. The sons of Jacob's wife Rachel, just two, Joseph and Benjamin. And then in Egypt, Joseph had two, Manasseh and Ephraim were born to Joseph by Aseneth, daughter of Potipharah, priest of On. And the sons of Benjamin, Bela, Becca, Ashbal, Gera, Naaman, Ehi, Rosh, Hupin, and Ard. These were the sons of Rachel, and obviously the grandsons, and who were born to Jacob, 14 in all. The sons of Dan, Hushim. The sons of Naphtali, Jashiel, Gunai, Jesher, and Shilem. These were the sons born to Jacob by Bilhah, whom Laban had given to his daughter Rachel, 7 in all. All those who went to Egypt with Jacob, those who were his direct descendants, not counting his sons' wives, numbered 66 persons. With the two sons who had been born to Joseph in Egypt, the members of Jacob's family which went to Egypt were 70 in all. Okay, so
Thank you for not letting me read those verses.
sure. And you're welcome. Is that your comment? Okay. All right. So let's see. Let's turn to Acts. Remember, who gave a big historical account, and also including this about Joseph in the book of Acts?
Steve, first small.
Stephen, the first martyr. Where is that? Acts 7. Let's look at Acts 7 a second. Acts 7. We've referred to Acts 7 a few times, looking at the account that Stephen gave before he was stoned. And so we see in Acts 7:11, he's talking about the famine that struck, and 13, on the second visit, Joseph told his brother who he was. That's the previous chapter. And then in 14, what does Acts 7:14 say?
75 persons in all.
75. So does the Bible contradict itself? No. So what's the problem? What?
Did you say 14?
Yes, 7:14.
After this, Joseph sent for his father Jacob and his whole family, 75 in all.
Okay, how many went down to Egypt? Actually, after this, Joseph sent for his father Jacob and his whole family, 75 in all for his whole family. So that necessarily with that. But so just a quick note: in the New Testament, Jesus himself and others. By the time the New Testament came, and so this is important, because if people come to you and say, "Oh, the Bible contradicts itself," and people are going to not know the Bible, but they will research up contradictions, and they'll come up with these things. They appear to be contradictions, but they're not. But that's what they'll harp on, and you won't know how to answer them. And if you're weak in your faith, they'll just pull you away, like, "Oh, the Bible's not reliable." So just a quick thing: when you get to the New Testament, this is the first century. In the first century, prior to that, remember Daniel, remember the different kingdoms. We had the Assyrian kingdom, we had the Babylonian kingdom, and then we had, what other kingdom after the Babylonian? The Medes and the Persians, and then what was the kingdom? Greek, Alexander the Great. And what did Alexander the Great do to the world? Hellenized it. He made Greek language, Greek speaking. He made that the common language. That became the universal language. And that was 200 years before Christ. And so before Christ, and in Alexandria, in Egypt, they translated the Hebrew scriptures. The Masoretic text is what they used, the Hebrew scriptures, and they translated it into Greek. And you know what that was called? Septuagint. And Dr. Lewis, you know how he says that? Septuagint. But we never heard that. We said Septuagint. We'll just leave it that way. Yeah, I wouldn't correct. Septuagint. The Septuagint is the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible. In Jesus' time, they quoted from the Septuagint. The Septuagint read a little different from the Hebrew scriptures. There wasn't a contradiction. But what we have in the 75, that could have added, remember, the wives were not included here and some of the other people. So the 75 added more of the people that were not added in the 70. And that's as simple as that. The 75 equal more people that were not included in the count. So it's just a matter of, who you're counting, and that's it. And so, in the Septuagint, it says 75, and because of they added the wives and they were counting them. So that's not something to get bogged down on, but to be aware of they're not contradictions. So anyway, now the point is, why do you think God wants us to know there were 70 or so people? How big of a number is that for a nation? Who? Oh. Go ahead, Linda.
I just always feel like things like this, if it's not important to my salvation, it doesn't matter to me.
Right. Right. I mean, the thing is, people try to use that to weaken the reliability of the Bible, and then and get that out to other people and influence people to disregard the Bible. You know, Satan uses these little things to make wedges. And so we do want to know a little bit about, you know, how to answer. But but the thing is, why do you think God wanted us to know that there are only 70 or so people?
Because there's gonna be a lot more of them by the time.
That's right. That's right.
They have to leave Egypt.
That's right. And 70 people is not a big group. And they were in Canaan. And in Canaan, what were they surrounded by? Other tribes. And what kind of people? Immoral. Idolaters, pagan, you know. And they already they were already being influenced. So this is the thing. It looks like God removed them from there. Now we're going to see something else. Where is he moving them to? And just look at this. You know, sometimes we think of an uprooting as, oh, this is a disturbance. I don't like this. And yet, you know, and we don't understand what God is doing. But it's a protection. It's a protection. And God is protecting his people in many ways, again, to preserve them so this Messiah can come through them. Now, look at verse 28. Now Jacob sent Judah ahead of him to Joseph to get directions to Goshen. So who again is taking lead now? Judah. Judah is, you know, stepping up to the plate. He's recognized more as a leader. And Jacob, what does Jacob do that no other man ever did? Or ever does? He asked for directions. Right? In 28, now Jacob sent Judah ahead of him to Joseph to get directions to Goshen. So that's pretty mature of Jacob. Again, a lesson for us. So when they arrived at the region of Goshen, Joseph had his chariot made ready and went to Goshen to meet his father, because Jacob, you know, his father Israel, Jacob was another place at his office. Now look, here's the reunion. As soon as Joseph appeared before him, he threw his arms around his father and wept for a long time. Can you imagine that reunion? Can you imagine that meeting after 22 years, thinking his son is dead, and seeing his father? And his father is 130 here. Joseph is 39 or 40. Can you imagine that? What do you think that felt like? Wonderful, yeah. And wept for a long time, just soaking it in. And then they had to get to business. And Israel said to Joseph, "Now I am ready to die, since I have seen for myself that you are still alive." Then Joseph said to his brothers and to his father's household, "I will go up and speak to Pharaoh, and will say to him, 'My brothers and my father's household, who were living in the land of Canaan, have come to me. The men are shepherds. They tend livestock, and they have brought along their flocks and herds and everything they own. When Pharaoh calls you in and asks, 'What is your occupation?' you should answer, 'Your servants have tended livestock from our boyhood on, just as our fathers did.' Then you will be allowed to settle in the region of Goshen, for all shepherds are detestable to the Egyptians." So, the shepherds are detestable to the Egyptians, although the Egyptians did have livestock and needed them to be taken care of. And so, and here is Joseph emphasizing their occupation and all their livestock. And why? Because this is detestable to the Egyptians.
They wouldn't bother them. They wouldn't be bothered
Yes, so we're going to see in the next. Goshen is a very rich land. It's very fertile, good for the animals. It's a big area, but I guess the Egyptians were not in that area necessarily, and so the Israelites can have their own place separated. So this is the separation. This is where racial separation happened with them, in the sense of not combining them with the Egyptians, because the Egyptians all of them to the Egyptians would be detestable. First of all, we know when Joseph, when he was accused of being a Hebrew, that was detestable to the Egyptians, and so this all played out to where now they could be isolated, separated from the Egyptians. And what kind of protection would that give the Israelites?
Protections to worship like they wanted to and to serve God. Also, he took them from a land that had so many famines to a land where they're going to be able to prosper, produce,
Yeah,
and have a lot of people. They probably left with 2 million when they left.
right. Yeah.
So from 70 or 75, everyone left.
Well, we'll go with the bigger number, adding all the others.
Could reproduce a lot faster than 75.
5 than they could 70, right?
So yeah, and again, you look at this the big picture, and it's this protection, because now they're going to be away from all the influences of idolatry, the false gods, their culture, and they can worship God, and also they're going to be multiplying here, and they're going to be developed, that, like God says, he's going to make a great nation there in Egypt. And then later in Numbers, it's going to say there was 600 men plus women and children, and then therefore you multiply that by 3, whatever, you get about 2 million. 2 million and multiplied. Went from 75 to 2 million Hebrews before they left Egypt.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, the Egyptians too, they worshipped idolatry too. I mean, they were the key to that.
Yeah.
There was a God for everything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was perfect for the Jews because it wouldn't be interfered with.
Yeah, to be isolated, be separated from them. And sometimes we want to separate, protect ourselves from that which is a temptation. Now, in the world, Jesus, we're in the world, but not of the world. So, but yet we got to, set up some boundaries, for our lives.
The Greeks and Romans made fun of the Egyptians because they worshiped insects and bugs, all kinds of things, and they just thought that was ridiculous. I mean, it was ridiculous to worship anything but God, but still they had,
Yeah.
their gods, Jupiter and all these kind of, they were more, seemed to be more something to worship than you were going to worship.
Yeah.
The Egyptians were down there worshiping beetles, so,
And God uses a lot of them in the plague.
yeah.
the gnats, the frogs,
Yeah.
and so what we see here is, again, how God is protecting them and guiding them, and how they're going to multiply. This is the place where they can multiply and have a better chance of not being influenced by all the gods in Canaan, and to be separated, have some separation, isolation from the gods of Egypt. And since the Egyptians detested them, they had that kind of division, that separation. And so how can God use closed doors or rejections to protect his people? Does God close doors sometimes on us? Or separate us from certain things to protect us? And we have to look at that sometimes, that this protected me, this protected me. I may not have liked it, but it protected me. So some of the things we learn here: worship before big decisions, the Beersheba principle. God's presence is the real security. I will go down with you. God keeps his promises across the decades, from Joseph being 17 to 39, Jacob was 130. And small beginnings God's canvas from 70 people to a nation. And holiness requires protected space, Goshen. So we need some protected space to have our holiness, to have a quiet time with God, to be still and know that He is God. So what is your Egypt right now, or your scary transition? And what promise from 46:3-4 do you need most? And just rehearse those promises and see what you need most. Do not be afraid that He will go with you. His promises will come true. He will provide for you. So, great lessons from Genesis, and to see how God works through this. And I can imagine they don't know the whole story, but neither do we at times in our own life. But what do we need to do? Be faithful. And then he said, be faithful. We may not know, we may doubt, but don't ever give up and remain faithful. All right. So we'll continue, Lord willing, next week in 47 as we continue to see them in the land. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? Yes, Brother
Yes,
Sean.
you know, and obviously studying and staying in God's word. And hate to sound like this, but coming to class.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
some of these concepts and principles that you're bringing out are concepts that we all learn eventually. But oftentimes when we're younger and we get married or we're having families, we don't know all these concepts. This is where you learn it.
Yeah.
This is where you learn it. Like that one right there. I mean, how are parents going to know how to protect a household with children if they don't know that concept?
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to keep your family separated from everything around in order to help them get to heaven.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, and there are many examples, in life that you can do that many different ways. And absolutely.
I've been thinking about that for some reason, Sean. The fifth commandment, I think is a really important commandment that I think Americans can do a lot better job of. Eastern cultures, they have, even though a lot of them aren't Christian, they really honor their father and mother. And we live in a culture in this country where that honor or the disrespect from parents is sort of insulting, I think.
Yeah, and a lot of times the results are that you don't live long, because the other way.
Only family with a promise.
Right.
But I just think that unfortunately, and I think that's what you're talking about. You come here and you can learn principles and you honor your father and mother. I see my grandkids in around 2 weeks. And then Caroline was sick. I mean, physically, not mentally.
Yeah.
But anyway, the oldest one's 8. Every time her parents say something, she wants to respond back. And I told her, I said, when your parents tell you to do something, you don't have to talk back to them. You just say yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Or
right.
say nothing and do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the last day I was leaving, her dad was talking to her one time, and my mother was the last day I was leaving, and she started doing that to her mother, and I looked over at her and said, I asked her, I said, what are you doing? She stopped.
Good.
So,
Good.
it's a matter of,
Yeah, you need to train them. You got to teach them right. Respect is really important. All right, very good. Thank you. Let's close in a word of prayer. Our dear Heavenly Father, we just humbly come before you, Almighty God, and Creator of all things in heaven and earth, and all powerful, and creating us in your image, Father, to be able to worship you, Father. Thank you for this privilege and opportunity tonight to come together, to fellowship, to sing praises to you, and to study your word. Help us, Father, to apply these principles to our life, to trust you, Father. Help us to gain a greater trust for you, a greater, deeper relationship with you, and to make time to just be still with you and to know who you are, to know that you are God, and that we can have peace through that, Father. And be with each one of us tonight. Be with all those that were not here tonight. Pray that they may join us. Be with those who are sick and need your healing and your help, and all those that need your provisions, Father. And give us boldness, courage, and wisdom to share our faith with others, Father, the hope that we have. And we just pray for our leaders, Father, for that they may follow your will and follow your direction to see you. And we just pray for a greater peace and the end of the fighting. And we just pray, help us no matter what, to be lights, to be faithful, to be lights in this world and in darkness, to shine our light for you, and to glorify you. And we just thank you for all these things, and go with us now. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, thank you.